What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another one of our student ministry lessons. Hopefully, these are helpful for you guys if you're not able to join us in person or if you miss a week of our lessons. So, we are still in our series titled Lost and Found, where we're looking at the Gospel of Luke. And so, we usually calculate our value and maybe others' value without really even thinking about it. We all have preferences and experiences that shape our opinions on what we think is valuable. And that's why we need to think carefully about how we define value, because it impacts our view on others and how we treat ourselves. And I think we tend to base our value on our possessions or our abilities or our characteristics, which are wrong things to find our value in. And we explored the first of the stories that Jesus tells us in Luke chapter 15 last week. But in order for this next story to make sense, we have to remember who Jesus was telling these stories to and why he was talking to them. So let's recap really quick. Jesus told these stories to the Pharisees, who were religious leaders who were super focused on following hundreds of religious laws in order to please God. But Jesus said that the Pharisees had gotten things wrong, because the Pharisees believed that following these religious laws exactly could make someone more good or holier or more valuable to God. And so they became arrogant and self-righteous, and they didn't like people who they believed were more sinful than them. So let's look at this second story. This is found in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 15, verses 8 through 10. And Jesus says, "Or what woman, having 10 silver coins, if she loses one coin, does not light a lamp and sweep the house and seek diligently until she finds it? And when she has found it, she calls together her friends and neighbors, saying, 'Rejoice with me, for I have found the coin that I had lost.' Just so, I tell you, there is joy before the angels of God over one sinner who repents." So the woman in this story had 10 coins and lost one of them. You might be thinking, so what? She has 9 more. What's the big deal about one coin? But for this woman, she probably didn't have a lot of money, and one silver coin was worth a full day's wage. The loss of this one coin would have had a huge impact on her. That explains what happened after she found her lost coin. She celebrated. And, if you remember, there were a few celebrations mentioned in the last story too. If we're counting, that's in these parables, that's 3 celebrations. The shepherd rejoiced when he found his lost sheep. The whole community rejoiced when the shepherd found his lost sheep and brought it home. And now this woman rejoiced when she found her lost coin. And so, Jesus says that this is all about when someone comes back to God, that heaven is celebrating. And here's another thing that these parables have in common. At the end of both of them, Jesus says that this huge party in heaven happens anytime someone who's lost gets found by God. When someone surrenders their life to Jesus for the very first time, heaven rejoices. And when someone who knows Jesus but has wandered away from him finally comes back, heaven rejoices then too. And so, these parables, of course, have, that main thing in common, but also another point, that they teach us something important about who God is and what God wants us to do. In this parable, we learn that when we're lost and wandering far from God, God values us enough to tear apart the whole house looking for us. He cares about us so much, he values us, that he wants to find us. And so how can this parable challenge you today? How can you adjust your understanding of what's valuable? Well, maybe for you, you need to let God find you. Just like the woman in today's story, God is relentlessly chasing after us when we wander away from him. Maybe you've never decided to follow Jesus, or you've wandered away from him, and maybe today's the day that you decide you'd like to be found and have that relationship with God again. And do you ever feel worthless? Do you question your worth, or do you think you've been calculating your value based on the wrong things? Maybe today you just need to really hear how much God values you and change where you get your value from. Because, we haven't done anything to earn God's love, but we are loved. And we need to let that love change us so deeply that we begin to value ourselves and others like God values us. Just like that woman and her lost coin, Jesus values you so much more than you know.